Hi, I am Allie Camaletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi everyone. Today we are talking about interdependence. Interdependence is universal collaborative value that grows and develops from a sense of community and the spirit of team support. I work with a program called Tigers that I'm certified in, and it's a big part of the culture focus that I use as well as the leadership coaching that I do. And there's 6 principles. Tigers is an acronym. So it's trust, interdependence, genuineness, empathy, risk, and success. And so today we're talking about interdependence. I had a great interview with Bob where we really dived into really a lot of delegation pieces when it comes to interdependence. So today what I thought I'd do is I'm going to go into what we do with the Tiger certification is go into the building and breaking that can happen when you're striving for interdependence and what these characteristics can look like. I'm going to use my experience, whether it be in restaurants or through what I have witnessed with other companies and my own companies. So the first one that really builds interdependence is respect for divergent thinking. And when I think about this idea, I think about my first restaurant job. And we were doing an event and we were running through the details of the timeline of the event. And the thought was, okay, everybody's going to arrive, they're going to sit down, and then the kitchen is going to need time before they get the actual orders because it was a prefix, but yet they still had choices. So for the servers to come back and bring whether it be drinks or get those orders taken. And so what I had actually come up with, and I was really brand new, but they listened to me. And not only did they listen to me, they implemented it. And at the time, I really didn't know what it was called, but I'm like, what is that little snack that you get when you first sit down at a nice restaurant? It's kind of like a gift. And they're like, yes, Amuse, definitely. We should do an Amuse. So that's what we did. They respected my input. And here I was, brand new, young, and went with it. That is respect for divergent thinking. Often in companies I have watched where they're like, you're new, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't even know our product yet, and they won't listen. But those are the people you should listen to even the most because those people have outside ways of thinking that you could benefit from because you get so stuck in your industry and how you're thinking. Another is just self-awareness and appreciation for others company-wide. So that shift from independence to interdependence is a big area there that happens in leadership. And when we go with that independent of striving for our worth, it's the shift of being self-aware that am I striving for my own worth or can I have appreciation for others and what they're going to bring to the table? Intolerance for manipulation and coercion. Ooh, I experienced this. I'm just kind of real with my examples, and I'm going to share with you an example that was very disheartening for me and really led to me leaving a company that I had been working for. And it was a situation where the gentleman that I was reporting to was very aware that I was not comfortable with infidelity. I had even expressed that, going to certain conferences made me uncomfortable with how people were acting, and I really wanted to opt out of specific conferences where I felt that energy. And we were having an event that I oversaw and ran where we brought clients in and educated them. And he was very manipulative, and the coercion was disgusting, where he had made it very clear this married man that was my direct report was hitting on a very young client. And we went out to dinner and he said, "Look at Allie, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for her to show up so that I can sit right next to her." And so that's manipulation and that's coercion. He proceeded to get very intoxicated at that dinner and then coerced her to go out to drinks after dinner, which I was quick to, at that point, I was very protective, especially my clients. Not that they were my clients, but I felt protective of them. And she was younger and she was here from out of town. And I went with them out of a way of feeling like I needed to protect her. So manipulation and coercion. Now, what probably led to me eventually leaving the company was the next time we had that event. And he's like, "Well, when's the dinner?" And I said, "No, I'm not inviting you to the dinner." That was my intolerance for the manipulation and the coercion that he was showing. The next is responsibility and accountability among all team members. This means we don't throw people under the bus. If you delegated something to someone and the ball got dropped or something didn't get translated correctly, you don't say, "Well, I don't want to call the person out, but..." No, you take responsibility for that. That was your responsibility to follow up and make it right if you did not see what you had tried to follow through with originally and what was supposed to happen come to fruition. But you don't throw them under the bus. Win-win problem solving and reduction in win-lose and lose-lose conflict solutions. So this can look like a situation where you have a guest that is having issues, whatever came up. I mean, there's so many issues that we can talk about that come up when it comes to vacation rentals that I work a lot in. And let's just say that they had an issue and they were looking for a full refund. And it's you and how you go through as a leader to make it a win-win for everyone. And that win-win can look like, I'm unable to give you a full refund, but what I am going to do is I'm going to give you a credit to come back again and stay with us. And like for half of the stay, 3 nights instead of a 7-week or something. That's a win-win for both parties. But if you go in just saying, "No, you're not getting anything. Yeah, that's too bad it happened, but we're not taking any responsibility." It's not interdependence. The other building of interdependence is just forgiveness of people. So many times in businesses, what happens is people bring in how they were raised, what they have watched in organizations that might not be healthy, and they replicate it. They just don't know better. So forgiving people for not really even knowing and giving them that benefit of the doubt. Appreciation for diversity. You do not want an organization where everybody's exactly the same. We're all doers and we get our work done and we work our tails off and that's how we operate. No, you want diversity. You want different age groups, different genders. You want different ethnic backgrounds. That's what really makes teams. Part of the tigers is that all tigers have different stripes. Just like all team members are different. That's what makes a really good cohesive team. Building interdependence, mentoring. I love mentorship programs. I did a podcast on it once before. Like having a mentor program in your work environment, I think is fabulous. It makes people feel like a sense of connection. I will say my daughter's school, they have something where they have the olders or just even a grade or two above spend time with what they call the youngers. And today I was watching my daughter. We have something called community time where we go in, the whole school and parents, if they choose, and watch a little skit that each class will do. Well, it was the kindergartners. My daughter right now is in second grade. And I saw her giving them a thumbs up. And I was like, oh, are those your youngers? And she said, yeah, that's my friend's little sister and then her cousin. And I was so proud. Like, that is interdependence right there. Cheering people on, mentoring them. And that leads right into empowering them to be that team member and see their growth. Once this airs, we will have already shared the behavioral change where I did a little bit of a case study with Sandy Dodson from Beachcomber Vacation Homes. And she talked about how she started to see that her real enjoyment and satisfaction was watching others grow. That's interdependence. That's empowerment. But what happens is we often don't even realize that we are breaking these essential ways of building interdependence in organizations. And so, what's it look like to actually break? It can be lack of attention to group processes that undermines the contributions of thoughtful, context-oriented, and analytical team members. So when we think about this, we think about, I call it going rogue. You've created a process. This is how it's supposed to work in the organization so we can all be included. And Bob and I had talked about when things go sideways, let's refine those processes or put in a new process potentially. But we don't go rogue and do whatever we want. That's not interdependence. That's independence. And that's what will break what you're striving for. Internal competition for rewards and recognition. That is that independent person that has not made the shift to interdependence and is striving for their own accolades. I remember working on a project at one point, and the department was growing really fast that I was involved in, and I had to hand the project off. And the project just needed a few touches before it was complete. But in the meeting, I will say that same exact supervisor recognized and gave all these accolades to the person that just did the few tweaks in the end and acted like he did it all. And at that time, I was just like, you know what? I don't need that recognition. But what I could have done have been like, excuse me? No, I actually did the majority of it. That person just did a few tweaks. No, that is not going to create interdependence in an organization. That would have been me being independent and wanting my accolades. Command and control leadership practices. You've been in those organizations where the leader, you know exactly who they are, and they are the ones making the decisions. Competitive conflict resolution. That is when you're like, I don't want this person to win, so I'm not going to give them anything. No, that's not the answer. That is not going to foster interdependence in your company. Repeated attempts to change people. This one's interesting. We can want to grow people, but change them? No. And so changing might look like not wanting people to be innovative. You want them to be little robots and do exactly as you say. No, I would never fit that mold ever. I kind of joke that I'm unemployable at this point in my life because I do have my own thoughts and I want to work in teams, but I want to also be able to express them. So I can't be the robot. It doesn't work for me. And there's a lot of people that it doesn't work for. And the robots, they have their place. But ultimately, you want people that are comfortable speaking out and being innovative. Allowing only leaders to solve problems, that's independence. That will not work in an organization. It'll eventually halt the organization. And that's what Bob and I were talking about. It will hurt the company in the end. Allowing only leaders to generate ideas. Absolutely. I was doing a project on behavioral norms with a company, and they were coming up with all of these different behavioral norms. And somebody said, well, doesn't the leader decide those? And I said, not in the organizations I work with. We all come together and we make those decisions. That creates ownership and interdependence. This one is the biggest challenge I see in organizations. It's allowing an us and them attitude to thrive in the workplace. Having started off my career in restaurants, it was all us and them, right? We called it front of the house, back of the house. Constantly conflict in the front of the house, back of the house. One of my early positions that I had was a company where the wife ran the front of the house and the husband ran in the back of the house. They were screaming at each other all the time, through the restaurant half the time. That's restaurants. It can be a little funny that way. But that doesn't work in a really cohesive company. This us and them. I see it in vacation rentals. There's a lot of different departments, right? To name a few, you have housekeeping, you have maintenance, you have guest services, you have sales. Those are just a few. And so often what will happen is guest services and maintenance will battle, or housekeeping and guest services, because guest services is getting the brunt of it when they get the calls of, this is wrong, nobody's been here, they didn't do the right job. Then they get frustrated because they're getting yelled at or they have an upset guest. And they weren't even the ones that were trying to follow through with the actual results. It was somebody else they were relying on. And so it can really cause an us versus them. And that's the biggest one, if you're thinking about your organization, to really look at and see if that's happening. No, the leader then should go in with empathy of like, we don't know what's going on in our maintenance department right now. Let's work with them and let's not blame, oh, maintenance, they always do this. No, it's not the answer. So I leave with you this quote by Desmond Tutu. The fundamental law of human beings is interdependence. A person is a person through other persons. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.